So Peter Sampson, you've just returned from the DAC OECD Third High Level Forum on Aid Effectiveness, where you were at the round table on situations of fragility and conflict. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience? We start off by looking at sort of the interaction between the panelists from the north and also those from the south that were there.
Well, there was a real frank dialogue going on about who defines the priorities. And there's, as one civil society member said, yes, we're in control, but it's as if we're driving a car. We've got our hands on the wheel, and we have to keep them on there. If we take them off, we die. So there's this aspect of, although priorities are being somewhat defined by beneficiary countries, there still is an aspect of how much leverage can a beneficiary country have, given that it's in a position of negotiation, that it's receiving aid.
And what about the debate around countries being, in terms of when donors are interacting with them and when they're interacting with their population, who are the real beneficiaries?
It's always difficult to talk about kind of imposing or encouraging accountability from the outside. Mm-hmm. These are internal dynamics of a society. But there are a couple of points that were agreed upon, that when we're talking about national ownership, we're not just talking about government ownership. We're not just talking about a whole of government approach. We're talking about a whole of society approach. We're talking about a dialogue between all the members of the society about what kind of state they want to live in. And that aspect of moving beyond simply government ownership, which is supposed to be the first sign of ownership in a situation of fragility, to a much wider aspect which will make any peace building or state building effort inclusive and sustainable.
And how was that accepted by the government representatives, both from the north and the south that were there, and what was the debate like?
Well, there were countries, governments specifically, that were very, I would say, harshly criticized mm-hmm. by the population. But it's not so much the what, it's the how. And the fact that in a context where you have a society that has been ripped apart by conflict, mm-hmm. a state that was formerly the main instigator of that violence, in that context, you can have space for people to discuss what they see as positive mm-hmm. and to hold their leaders accountable for their actions. Mm-hmm. That's going, ultimately, when we're talking about aid effectiveness, mm-hmm. it's going to be the people on the ground, the local people who have to implement and who are supposed to be the beneficiaries that need to be the most involved. And if that space exists, if the national government provides that space, and if as the international community it can encourage that space, then we've gone a very long way in the last 10 years.